What's up, guys? Welcome to Vintage Genetics, where it is all about classic bodybuilding. And today is a very long overdue Q&A. So a while ago I asked you guys to ask me questions via Instagram stories, and as you can see I've got quite a lot of them here. I made some screenshots and I'm just gonna select some interesting questions for you guys to hear. So I'm just gonna go ahead right now to not waste any more time. Question number 1 by Sean Mendiola 16. Do you think you can beat cbum, aka Chris Bumstead? So yes, I do think I can beat him, even though it has been made more difficult seeing as he is able to improve quite a lot. Some people thought he was staying pretty much the same for a few years, but then, of course, last year he improved a whole lot as a Mr. Olympia champion already, so it's going to be difficult to beat someone who keeps improving, who is already number 1. But me myself, I've also been improving time after time again, so it's only going to be a matter of time before I get to the top 5 and then hopefully go face to face with Bumstead himself. And that's a dream that will become true, but I'm gonna go for it because I do believe in that possibility. Apologies about the sound just now. I just closed both doors. We live in quite a busy city. Can't wait to move into our new house later this year. I'll be recording that, of course, very thoroughly. Anyway, the next question by X Bool. How to know when volume of workout should not increase anymore because of recovery? So, when you are working out hard, right, you're going to failure 2 to 3 times per exercise, doing 4 to 5 exercises, so going to failure quite a lot. And the next time you do the same workout, the same exercises, and you don't increase your strength, so you don't increase the amount of weight you're able to lift, or increase the amount of volume you can do, or, as to say, can you do more reps? So, for example, if you can do a maximum of 10 reps of 100 kilos on the bench press, the next time you do the bench press, you should try to aim for 11 reps on the bench press. If you fail to do this multiple workouts in a row, personally for me, if I fail to do this 2 workouts in a row and I'm not cutting or anything, then I know I either have to lower the volume to allow myself to recover, to actually get stronger, or change out the exercise. So it really depends on, do you have a good connection with the exercise? Did you progress on the exercise before? Did you up the volume lately, or did you start lowering your calories? All of those things have big impacts on what you should do. But in my opinion, if you don't recover, if you don't progress on a certain exercise for 2 times in a row, either check your recovery, see how much you sleep, see how much you eat. If that is all correct and you don't get stronger in any of the other exercises either, then most likely your volume is too high. You might need a deload or lower the volume temporarily, or that's pretty much the best option. Or if you don't get stronger on just that one exercise, just switch it out for another similar movement that you can still progress on. Next question by I am Edmund. Will you ever consider getting a coach? So I've had 2 coaches over my bodybuilding career. The first coach basically taught me the industry of bodybuilding itself. And the second coach taught me how the ins and outs of the pro industry, basically, and how to really get to the pro stage, to America, to the Olympia. And now I don't have a coach at the moment. I do have a background in nutrition and dietetics. I'm officially a dietitian. And with that, I want to say that I do have the capability of researching what would be best for me, what would be best in general as well. But I know myself very well too, after having done all of those contests, so I know what works best for me. So in the last Olympia, I learned another lesson, what not to do, and every mistake that I make, they accumulate to more and more wisdom, which you can use for the next contests. So if this contest coming up in about 5.5 weeks doesn't go as planned at all. So if I lose because of my own shape, thinking I was going to get in shape, then I might consider getting a coach, because then it was proven that I simply haven't grasped myself or my own coaching well enough yet to compete at a pro stage. However, I have won a pro show already doing most of the coaching myself, so I do have the knowledge to coach myself, but sometimes it's nice to have a secondary objective eye to look at you and see and say, well, you need to push a little harder or you need to push a little less, which sometimes is a problem for bodybuilders as well. They like to push themselves more and more because it's never enough. Having someone on the sidelines looking at what you actually look like, seeing the progress you make is very useful, which is why I'm a coach myself for a lot of other people, and I can tell them objectively whether the progress they're making is too slow, too quickly, or just right. And that way they know for sure that the plans they're following at the moment are the correct ones. However, when you're coaching yourself, you always want to push yourself harder than you would push your clients. So sometimes you have to think, what would I do if I was a client? And sometimes you do make different decisions, and that's always going to be a learning process. But perhaps one of the coaches I've been looking for at a long time is John Meadows. I've known him since 2013 when he coached Antoine Vaillant for the Canadian Nationals, I believe, and those were awesome videos to watch on YouTube. His smarts, his intelligence back then was already amazing, and of course it has only grown through his own trials and tribulations and experiences with other clients. For example, the number 2 classic physique Olympian right now, Rough Diesel, I believe was coached by John Meadows, and he's just a very nice person in general. So if I was to go for a coach, I think he would be right up there at the top of the list. Next question by 8uli_. Opinion on training chest and back together synergistically. So I've done that a whole lot in the past, because the chest, whenever you work the chest, you stretch the back. Whenever you work the back, you stretch the chest. Not exactly as biceps and triceps, because those are true antagonists. The back and chest aren't true antagonist muscles, but the entire group of the muscle, they really go well together. So what I used to do is 4 supersets. For example, starting out with the bench press, then a lat pull down, then doing some dips, for example, and a V-bar pull down. You know, supersets like this and bent over rows with flies. Your whole upper body will get the best pump you've ever felt. And this is something that Arnold Schwarzenegger used to do back in the day. At least that's what a lot of workout plans claim that he did. I've never seen direct, well, I have seen direct footage of him actually doing, I believe, an incline bench press and a lat pull down in a superset, so I do believe he did this more often. But they claim that he did this to get ready for a contest because it burns more calories and it's more volume overall, so a bigger caloric demand, which does make sense if you compare it to the guys right now who do cluster sets, drop sets, and supersets as well, or for example the 10-25 technique by John Meadows, things like that to increase caloric demand during the training to make the training more dense, so doing more work within a shorter period of time. That actually does work for getting ahead in your contest prep, but it also does work in the off season to allow more food to come in without the fat gain. So would I recommend it? That depends. Would I recommend you to try it out for a while? For sure, because I've been training like this for I think at least a year, and I made really nice gains. However, it is difficult to make strength gains, but you will get the best possible pumps you've ever had. Next question by Kendalls. Hello Wes, I think you are pretty strong. Do you have a powerlifting background? No, I don't have a powerlifting background. However, I was one of those guys who always tried to do their 1 rep max in the gym, which is a huge mistake I tell people not to do, because I do think part of my past shoulder impingements or slight injuries were caused by you doing that when I was very young, when you of course think you are immune and invincible, but you're not, because later down the line you will feel the effects of what you've done in the past. So I don't recommend doing anything like that, but I don't have a powerlifting background. And if you compare myself to other bodybuilders like Ian Valliere and James Hollingshead and some other bodybuilders out there, they are incredibly strong, much stronger than me. But I do have to say that some exercises I do quite well at, especially in the off season, like the bench press or any back rowing movements, for example. I love doing stuff like that. And also the belt squat I'm pretty strong at because I'm pretty much advanced at that movement by now. The ATX belt squat, the favorite squat movement I can possibly do. But anyway, no more true strength testing for me now, but I do increase my strength whenever I can, because strength is important to build the maximum amount of muscle. The more weight you can lift, the more tension is put on the muscle cell, and the more it will grow if you can do it safely with full range of motion, etc. Next question by Otavio Souza. Workout without pump means a bad workout? Not necessarily. So what you have to look at is how many carbs are you eating? What are your goals right now? So it would be a less optimal workout if you were in the off season. You know that you've been eating regularly, just a regular carb diet, just not too high, not too low, just a regular lean bulking diet. You don't restrict anything and you feel good and you train, you don't get a pump. There could be a couple of things going on. First of all, hydration is number one. If you don't get enough water in, you simply won't be able to fill out those muscle cells because the filling out is done by water. Second is also hydration, and people mistake this, but if you don't take in enough electrolytes like sodium or potassium, you will also get dehydrated. So drinking too much water without enough electrolytes will dehydrate you. So drinking water can indirectly dehydrate you as well. So taking in enough salt is very important. And trust me, when you're cutting down and you are even at zero carbs, adding a little bit of salt in your pre-workout shake and in your intra-workout water bottle will do you wonders for the pump, guys. Trust me, it's the cheapest thing you can possibly do to get a good pump. But as I said, if you're in the off season, nothing particular strange going on and you don't get a pump, you either you didn't train the muscle directly. For example, you might be doing the bench press and your form might be so off that the chest isn't really directly targeted as much as you think. So not a lot of blood flow goes to the targeted muscle you're intending to target, but more to the triceps and the shoulders, for example. But if that's not the case, then you're maybe overreaching, which is another word for overtraining, which simply means sleep more, rest more, take a day or two off, and you will get the most amazing pump again after. Next question by Amin Gallardo. When you cut down on carbs? So both in the off season and during contest prep or a cutting phase, you cut down carbs at certain moments. So during the contest prep that I'm in right now, my carbs compared to the off season, of course, have been going lower and lower and lower. And on an off day like today, only 2 of the meals have carbs, 4 of the meals, they do not have carbs. So it's very low carb, about 120 grams maybe in total. So not exactly zero. We're still going to go there in a few weeks, but still very low for someone who weighs 260 pounds. So during the cutting phase, you lower the carbs regardless, and on the rest days, they are even lower. So when you're in the off season, you might think, well, you gotta grow, so you gotta eat as much carbs as possible, right? Well, if you want to keep insulin sensitivity as high as possible, you should have some days with lower carbs. Again, the rest days or even the muscle groups that are not a weak point and are smaller. For example, if you train the shoulders and arms together, they're both not muscle groups you consider weak, then you can lower the carbs on that day a little bit in order to be able to increase the carbs on days that you demand more carbs or need more carbs, like a back day or a leg day. So that's basically carb cycling a little bit. So you have high days on the back and leg day, medium days on a shoulder and arm day, and a low day on a rest day, for example. So that's when you could consider lowering the carbs. Next question by Leaf Lifts. How is it being a dad? Did you expect it that way? What do you like the most? So being a dad is something that is still feeling surreal to me. Dexter is sleeping right now in his room. He's about 9 months old at the moment. Time flies really quickly. But the expectation of being a dad was really different from how it actually turned out to be. So especially as a bodybuilder, we are very strict and meticulous and consistent with our structure during the day and our meal timing and the workout. I want to work out at that time in the day. But if you have a baby boy, he will decide your structure of the day. So me and my girlfriend, we both have our own business, so it's not like I can just leave him with her and she takes care of him. We both take care of him. So for example, she is now going to her business, the gym, giving classes and personal training while I am at home watching him, and vice versa. It just happens every single day is different. So what I didn't expect is the structure to be so much different compared to what it was before. Of course, you can expect that, but to what degree? That is always very hard to decipher until you're in the situation itself. So, every single day is different, especially at the beginning when we first had him. It was very unstable because he was crying a lot more. He was waking up in the middle of the night. I bottle fed him. I stayed up at least until 1 or 2 a.m. to be able to give him his last bottle so that Marley, my girlfriend, could sleep a bit longer before she had to give breastfeeding to him in the middle of the night. So that was weeks and weeks on end. And for a bodybuilder, sleep is very important. So I had to ignore that, I had to ignore that fact because I wasn't going to be able to do anything about it. I don't have the luxury to sleep during the day. Well, I do, but I don't because I have an own business, and the less hours I work, the less money you make. And especially now, I feel a lot more responsible to work because we have a baby. And we also will get a new, bigger house because we have a baby. So later this year, we will be moving into a new house, which brings a lot of costs with it, of course. A lot of things that you never expect to have to pay for, you have to pay for. And the thing I like the most is he can cheer you up no matter how down you feel. Like, he smiles a whole lot. So of course babies cry, but at the beginning they cry a lot and they don't smile at all. And at one point the crying goes down and the smiling goes up, and now all he does is basically whenever you look at him and smile at him, he smiles back, and he laughs a lot. He's really entertaining in that way. It's really funny, and you can actually, it looks like having a conversation with him, even though he's talking like a baby and I'm just talking like this, for example. He just loves that very much. And his ability to cheer you up and to make you feel better no matter what's happening in your life, knowing that he will be there for the rest of your life, seeing him grow up, seeing him become the human, the man he's going to be later, seeing how he's going to do at school, what kind of homework he brings home, the ways I can teach him stuff and help him with stuff. Both me and Marley have a sports background, obviously, so what is he going to do regarding that? We're not going to force him to do anything, but of course give him advice. That's just going to be a very exciting time in the future, and that's something I did not think about before having a baby, that I would be so occupied in my mind about the fact that he's going to grow up and so many more things are going to happen, and he will forever be a biggest part of our lives, basically. So just very, very amazing. Next question by Harshit. Let's just call him Harshit. 74. tell us about yourself, which you think people don't really know about you. Okay, so before I was a serious bodybuilder, still have a telescope right here, but I never unfortunately use it. But I used to be, and I still am, incredibly fascinated and interested by the night sky, the universe, how it all works. Back when I was in, how do you call that? Kindergarten? No, not kindergarten, but the school after elementary school. I used to give these, what's that word again? You stand in front of the class and you have to talk about a subject. There's a word for it. In Dutch it's called spreekbeurt. But anyway, you know what I mean. So I used to talk about the solar system, about the sun, about all the planets. I knew the exact order of the planets. I watched National Geographic and Discovery. I didn't really watch a lot of cartoons. Of course, I watched them like Dragon Ball Z whenever I could, but also whenever a documentary was on about the universe, the galaxy, the planets, anything like that, I was gonna watch it. And that's still to this day, whenever I see something by Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is an astronomer, and a lot of other astronomers and astrophysicists online who post interesting lectures or podcasts, I listen to it, I watch it, I'm very interested by it. And by the way, you guys know about Google Earth, right? We all use Google Maps, and I think before Google Maps was very popular, there was Google Earth, which you could use to, look at the entire planet as it was and zoom in and see the actual details pictured by a satellite. You still can do this on Google Maps, but it was an application on your desktop computer before called Google Earth. But you also had, I think, Google Space or Google Universe or something. And you could actually do the same thing with the moon, with Mars, but also zoom in using the pictures made by the Hubble Space Telescope, which is one of the most amazing image producing telescopes ever. So it basically orbits around the planet and it points its lens to a specific patch of sky for multiple days, even weeks, I'm not sure. So it takes the same picture many times over, so the very faint light, they all come together in multiple pictures and you can actually see a clearer picture, and that way you can actually see incredibly detailed, beautiful spiral galaxies from millions of light years away, even billions of light years away. And just to think about that, when you look at the night sky and you see all the lights, knowing that those are many light years away, meaning, for example, if something is 500 light years away, you might see a star that is 500 light years away, which is a distance. That means it takes light 500 years to get to our eyes before we can actually see it. So you actually see something that is 500 years old. Little facts like this, and there are a lot more, very much interest me. And I wanted to be actually an astronomer before I did anything else. I didn't know what I wanted to be. But my school mentor actually told me in elementary school, you're not gonna make a buck doing that. And that's basically what crushed that dream, because I knew as a young boy I needed to make money later somehow. And if I can't do it with astronomy, well, how am I going to do it then? And that's when I was lost for a few years, not knowing what to do. I studied chemical technology first, but that didn't turn out to be very interesting. Then I went on to communication and multimedia design, which I did for 3 years. I almost finished it, but then I realized that also isn't what I wanted to do later. However, I did learn quite a lot, like programming, designing, which, why I make the shorts myself, the designs, Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, which I added this video with, for example. So a lot of things I did learn, but then I did nutrition and dietetics, which ultimately came about because of bodybuilding. So astronomy is still a passion of mine, but it's something that's still my hobby, at least searching for it, listening to it. And I want to do it a lot more, but maybe later when bodybuilding is on a low pitch, then maybe it's going to continue. And another thing you guys may not know, I used to be a gamer, a very serious gamer at that. and I used to play certain games for many years on end, which made my skill level in the game quite high. I don't know if any of you guys know Guns the Duel. And I used to do this on the official server and also on private servers, on which I became a game master or an administrator, which means you basically have authority over the members playing in that game, which could be thousands of members playing at a time. And I was the one with, commands to ban people, kick people, or kick people out of the game, and special weapons, spawn people, respawn them. Stuff like this, which felt very special to me, which actually, looking back, is a trait of my personality that I can find back in my own business now, because I still like to be a leader. And back then I already was, as 17 years old, leading a forum as one of the administrators of a couple of thousand people, which was very popular back then, a lot of activity, and it taught me a lot. It taught me how to speak and write English better. Obviously it's never going to be perfect, but still it's good enough to be able to do this and get popular and known throughout the bodybuilding industry, for example. So gaming has taught me a whole lot. And I'm sorry, I'm talking for quite too long now, but if you guys want to know more about my gaming history, I have a lot more to tell about that. Anyway, next question. Okay, this is going to be the last question by Mr. Abbas2. How do you overcome the feeling when you don't place where you want to see yourself in the Olympia? So the only true way to overcome this is to focus on the next goal. You don't want to linger in the past. That is a mistake a lot of people make. So if you think that you fail, don't linger in that moment. Move on. And all of a sudden, that failure becomes a lesson. Because next time, you won't make the same mistakes that caused you to not place where you wanted to place, or to not win when you wanted to win. There's always something you could have done better, or something you shouldn't have done that you did, that you can now do instead. And that's exactly every time I lose a contest or I don't look the way that I want to, there's always a reason that I am aware of that caused that lack of perfection. So every time that I lose a contest, I take that lesson with me to the next one to be better and better and better. So another way to overcome this is to know that at one time in the future, I will get to the placing where I want to be. The next goal is obviously, the next conservative goal is getting into the top 10. Right now, I'm the 11th of the world. So getting in the top 10 is just one spot, but that's why I say conservative placing goal, because my true goal is getting to that first call out to be compared to the best. So actually be switched around a couple of times, not be in the outside of the call out, but actually be in the middle next to Chris Bumstead, being compared to the top guys. It could happen this year if I qualify, when I qualify for the Olympia. But certainty is never there. So of course I'm still young. There's a lot I can improve that will never end, but that's what's so fun about bodybuilding. Every single time you think you're there, there's a lot more to achieve. So very excited for this year, guys. The next contest coming up in Portugal is going to be incredibly amazing. I already see some people comparing the physiques that are going to compete in Portugal, and it's a beautiful country regardless, so we're going to have a fun time there. And I'm going to try my best to use that contest to qualify for the Olympia. And then at the Olympia itself, at this coming show, guys, I trust me, I will achieve the best shape you've ever seen. And I say that every single time. But as I just told you, if you trust me, you know to do everything in my power to not make the same mistakes I did back then, back at the last Olympia, for example. So just imagine that shape with impeccable conditioning, with improved weaker body parts. That's going to be a sight to behold. But yes, that's remains to be seen, and we're going to do our best. Anyway, guys, thank you incredibly much for the support. A lot more footage is coming, especially when I'm in Portugal itself. I'm going to be recording every single day, again, just like I did at Aruba, showing you exactly what I eat, how I train, how I progress, my weight updates, stuff like this. So thank you again for watching, and don't forget to stay golden.